Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this virtual roundtable discussion sponsored by EI, powered by MPS and its strategic global partner, Liberate Learning. Our topic today is a great one, I think. I hope you agree. It's the importance of emotional intelligence in the age of AI. I'm your host, Claude Werder of Brandon Hall Group, and I think you're in for a real treat, an insightful discussion between four experts in this space. Let me introduce them to you now. We have Rahul Arora, Chairman and CEO of MPS Limited. Rahul leads the growth agenda of MPS, which is the parent company of EI Design. Rahul's vision for MPS is to create a compelling learning company at a meaningful scale that helps the world learn smarter. He's leading teams to power emotionally intelligent learning experiences for its customers by combining the power of human connection and empathy. We're also joined by Rodney Beach, who's the founder and group managing director for Liberate Learning. He's a dedicated learning and development leader with over 25 years of industry experience, highly regarded by Australia's L&D industry for his thought leadership. Rodney is committed to successfully propelling some of Australia's and the world's largest organizations into an era of digital learning innovation. Also with us today is Roshelle Weir, Senior L&D Consultant for Liberate Learning. After working in financial services, including insurance, learning and development, and later as an accomplished business leader for more than 20 years, Roshelle was commissioned to set up and manage the original digital innovation lab for Suncorp, one of Australia's largest multinational banking and insurance organizations. Roshelle returned to L&D in 2018 when she joined the Liberate Learning team. And we also welcome Greg Wolf, who's the Global Learning Manager of Orica. Greg's a visionary in the field with over 10 years of experience, and he's known for his human-centered approach to learning and innovation. His tenure is marked by achievements such as overseeing a large-scale SAP transformation that included 100,000 learning requirements, including introducing digital adoption tools. He's committed to data-driven digital transformation and continuous improvement through technology. A really great panel. We also want to thank our sponsors, EI, and their strategic global partner, as I said, Liberate Learning. EI is an emotionally intelligent learning experience design company that partners with customers in their digital transformation journey. They have over 3 decades of experience designing learning and performance support solutions that drive performance gain and maximize training ROI and ROE, or return on experience. They deliver high-impact learning solutions that do 3 basic things. 1, drive deeper and more meaningful learner engagement. Also, enable effective upskilling and improve employee performance, and create a high ROI for the business. From strategy to development to delivery to measurement, EI works with their customers to ensure training investments deliver business results. And Liberate Learning is part of an international award-winning group of companies revolutionizing how online, blended, and face-to-face learning and performance support tools are delivered in modern Australian and New Zealand workplaces. It has a team of more than 75 people covering a whole range of services. For those of you who aren't familiar with Brandon Hall Group, we're a human capital management research and advisory firm that empowers excellence in organizations around the world through our research and tools. We have 6 practice areas, including learning and development, talent management, and leadership development. Your participation in Brandon Hall Group's research surveys is one of the most crucial components of our insights and thought leadership. So, if you have a few minutes to spare and see any topics here that you can take a survey for, it's greatly appreciated. We have 2 open surveys, finishing up our annual HCM Outlook survey, which we'll mention in a couple of minutes, and also our rewards and recognition survey for 2024. Links will be available in your handout, or you can always visit brandonhall.com. And finally, a few logistics. We hope you'll ask questions. Please use the questions panel on your control bar. We'll leave time at the end for questions and may sprinkle in a few here and there as we go. The roundtable event is being recorded, and we'll share a link to the recording and a PDF of the presentation in email in 24 hours or less. The chat is also open for today. We really hope you'll share your thoughts and experiences as we go through the webinar. We're going to have quite a bit of back and forth, and would love for you to throw your comments in as well and we'll talk about some of them as we go, hopefully. Your feedback and perspective, it really helps make this even a better experience than just a discussion. So we hope you'll join in, share your thoughts as we go, or simply just pop in, say hello, and let us know where you're joining from today. Okay, let's get started, shall we? Well, you know, I don't know about you, but I find that people are talking about AI all the time. You know, it's everywhere, isn't it? It's difficult to listen or read the news or discuss anything these days, especially in the human capital management space, without AI entering the conversation in some way. Among HR and learning organizations, though, leaders reacted pretty cautiously at first about AI and generative AI in particular, since it was, really kind of came to the forefront at the end of 2022. By mid-year 2023, only 23% of organizations that we surveyed at Brennan Hall Group said that AI would have a positive impact on learning. But by December, when we conducted our HCM Outlook survey, 67% said they'll be using generative AI for learning and development in 2024. That's more than any other segment of human capital management. As this graphic shows, the most popular use cases for AI and learning are for scaling activities and accelerating training content development. Those two topics dominate the conversation around learning and Gen AI now. But what gets far less attention, and what we really want to focus on with our panel today, is a heightened importance of human skills as the era of AI evolves. As the digital world becomes more ubiquitous, the capacity for human emotional understanding, empathy, and interpersonal interaction, elements encompassed by emotional intelligence, grows in importance across the workforce, including learning and development. So today we'll spend a few minutes talking about what AI can and can't do to improve the learner experience, and then we're going to do a deeper dive into three other topics. One, the role of emotional intelligence in developing learning in this new era. Two, the possible unintended consequences of leveraging learning without using the principles of emotional intelligence. And last, and perhaps most important, how learning organizations can really take the lead in blending emotional intelligence and AI. So we'll ask for your input along the way. And in fact, let's get started now with a quick poll that we'd love you to participate in. And here is the question, very simple question to get us started. And Shay, you can launch the poll. And the question is, to what degree is your organization leveraging AI right now to improve the learning experience? Is it evaluating the best course of action? Or are you actively using AI now? Or you plan to start using AI in a targeted way soon? Or you really don't have any plans right now to use AI for learning? So we're interested in how you weigh in here. This will help us, I think, in our discussion to kind of get a sense of where everyone is in their journey. That'll help with some of the comments that we may make during the discussion. Shay, let us know when we have a good number of responses, and we'll see where people are and then get going on this discussion.
All right, that's pretty much everyone. So I'm going to share the results now.
Okay. So let's see what we have. So 44% of you are planning to use AI in a targeted way soon. So I think we're going to be talking about a lot of things that may help you in your journey. Only 9% of you have no plans. And then we've got about 46% either evaluating the best course of action or really actively using it now, which is great. All right, so we'll go ahead and close this and let's get the discussion started. And as I mentioned, our first topic is what AI can and can't do to improve the learner experience. And to get us started on this, Rahul, why don't you get us started and then we'll just all start weighing in.
Great, thanks, Claude. So I think one of the most popular takeaways, we've seen this in the media, we've seen this in research, is that AI can automate repetitive and time-consuming tasks, reduce human error, and then free up learning and development to focus on more higher value tasks. While I somewhat agree with this, this popular takeaway, I think what it doesn't do is describe what will L&D focus on. And I think what AI can do is provide the assist, drawing from a basketball analogy. What AI can't do is be creative, be emotionally intelligent. And from my perspective, I think as we move to a world where AI is part of our lives, our everyday lives, including in learning and development, one of the few things we need to think about is, as professionals in the corporate world, how can we be more human again? How can we be more emotionally intelligent? So almost doubling down on the human element. Some of you may have seen the movie Office Space, and the manager telling the protagonist, fill in your TPS reports, and that scene I remember from my college when I watched the movie. And I think what AI does is it takes the really boring, mundane aspects out of our everyday lives and is providing the assist. But at the same point in time, now that we have all this freed up space and time, and I think what becomes really important is what do we do with this space? What do we do with this time? And I think that we all have, at parts of our day where we feel like we're doing things that are an absolute time suck, draw down energy. And I think that's where AI really comes in. It kind of takes away the time suck, takes away all those energy, reducing elements. I think then it's for us as professionals to figure out, how can we go back to our roots of being more human? How do we bring empathy into what we do? How do we step up the creativity now that we have more space? So the way I look at it, and would love to hear others on the panel as well describe their experience. But I think of AI providing the assist and us then kind of elevating what we do at work to be more creative and to be more emotionally intelligent.
What do others think?
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Rahul. I think the way that I describe it is it's around augmented intelligence. It's around, you don't have to know everything or remember anything. You've now got this automated tool that can help you to do things so much more efficiently. But it does come with caveats though. So I don't know, how many of you have experienced using ChatGPT or similar for doing instructional design. I find that unless you get the instructions really clear, the result can actually sometimes not be quite helpful. So I'll find, that you might ask it to write a 45-minute workshop agenda that covers these things for this type of audience, but it doesn't have that experience or understanding of how long some of those activities might take and things like that. So it's a guide. It gets you 80% of the way there, but you still need that expertise in order to make sure that it is meaningful, that it does incorporate a human experience. There's a learner on the other end of that session and that content. So it's about being, it will absolutely help you get part of the way there, but it's not going to replace the work that you currently do. It'll just help you to, you're not looking at a blank page. It'll help get you started and get some thought starters. So, we're shifting to being more thought workers and less task, operators.
Reminds me of hybrid, although we've probably all heard hybrid used in different ways over the last few years. So maybe hybrid is not a good term for it, but between the AI and the human touch, it reminds me of Google Translate when that first started to come out, where it translate, do the bulk of the work, and then you had to then update it and localize it. I can't remember which particular language, but we were working with the language translation once, and I found out later there's multiple ways or intended uses of the word submit, for example. So then you had to determine the context of the nature of submit to put the translation in on a button on an e-learn, for example.
I think that all comes back to who's driving it, right? It's like if you're piloting it, and in that use case, Rod, you're talking about if someone has some basic understanding of the language and they're handling it, then they can make sure that that context is added in. And I think that's where AI, the power is in the person in the driver's seat, which is all of us using it, how well we prompt it, how well we steer it. on what it can do for us and how it can improve the roles that we do each day. And then another part that just to add into this, I think I've been asked this question for over 12 months since ChatGPT kind of made the headlines, is what will it change? What will it do? Now, I almost think I could answer this differently every month based on evolutions. It keeps changing, it keeps evolving, we keep learning more. And the key that I always say, like, the piece in this, that you can't sit on the sidelines anymore. If we're really going to be effective in our roles and improve in our practice, we need to stay in front of this and keep understanding, keep learning what it can do, because the answer that we give today will be different in a month versus 6 months' time. So, I think that it's really important. This is a big inflection point that all of us can actively get involved and choose, to actually really take control of this and not sit back. Over the years, everyone will, a lot of people will say, I'm not a technology person, that's not my thing. I don't think we can afford to take that position anymore.
Great. Anything else?
Not to be scared of it, not to be afraid of this evolution. It's actually exciting. Yes, there are some risks and there are things that you will need to manage for, and managing change and managing your governance, all sorts of things. And we can talk a little bit more about that later in the call. But it is about being curious and embracing what it can do for us. So rather than, to your point, Greg, of what is it going to, what are the negatives of it, start to look at it from a growth mindset. How might this, make my job easier, make our team more effective, increase the impact that learning has in my organisation?
I don't think there's many of us that wouldn't kill for an extra resource or two in our teams. And, we always say we're really lean, we don't have enough people to do the work. Now we've got, something that is essentially an intern that can do data analysis, that can write some base content, that can do some basic storyboarding, whatever the task is you want it to do. You've now got that team member on your team, so take advantage of it.
Well, I think it was Rahul mentioned like the assist, like in terms of use it, augment together to be able to support and assist. And using a sport analogy again, Greg, you mentioned can't sit on the sidelines on the bench. You got to get in the game. So making sure we embrace it. Take advantage of it when we can. Understand its strengths and weaknesses. And your point, Greg, it's evolving. So look at it again in a month and 2 months, and continue to pivot and evolve as it does.
Okay, let's move on, and as we do, encourage folks to drop thoughts, questions into the chat and into the question panel, and we want to hear what your thoughts are, especially if they differ from anything we're saying. So let's move on to the next question, which is, what is the role of emotional intelligence in developing learning in the age of AI? Rod, do you want to get us started?
Yeah, I can talk through, start us on this one, I suppose. So we're talking AI in terms of, collection of resources, getting factual information, policies, procedures, data, details, recalling that and sourcing that for us. So then when we're talking emotional intelligence, we're thinking, things like self-awareness and empathy and social skills, connecting with other humans and emotional connection, that type of thing. So it's almost, I wonder whether, I hadn't only just thinking about it now, like a relationship there between like our motivation want to learn, like, from being extrinsic factual data recall, rote memory versus intrinsically motivated to want to do something, to achieve something, to want to learn something. So if we're looking at just grabbing information, a bit like that Google Analytics, Google Translate I mentioned, we've got the content. Okay, so we get the content from subject matter experts, so SMEs, or we get the content from policies, procedures. We use AI to then collate that, and that's the assist. That's where we can use that to our advantage to collate the information. But that's pretty generic. It's pretty white labeled, relatively speaking. So understanding like that tacit knowledge, conversation, nuances that are happening within an organization that could be evolving as well. It wasn't happening 6 months ago or 3 months ago, or here's a trend that's happening. New software is getting released. This is the pattern of what people are getting wrong. Like it may take a while for it to catch up and understand the conversations that are happening around the water cooler. So for us to create learning resources that aren't generic and we want to, pull on those intrinsic motivations to want to learn, we need to make sure it's very nuanced, very specific, grab that tacit information, very localized, personalized, and the best way to do that and convey something rather than just rote memory and factual learning would be situational, contextualized, relevant, and building that emotional connection with what they're learning. And most of us are thinking now stories, case studies, storytelling predates the written word. It's like writing on caves is storytelling. So it's stand the test of time. So we love learning through storytell, case studies that are authentic and contextualized. AI is going to struggle to do that at this point in time because it won't be able to pick up on those human interactions and human connections, and it'll be able to grab some algorithms and data and information like that. But the emotional connection and that generating that deeper learning experience through true contextualized situational learning, AI is going to struggle doing that. That's the human element that's going to be missing, or it is at the moment. Another example, I guess, I'll open for, interested to see what other people think, but a model that most people use around the world, and we've been using for, I don't know, many, many years, would be John Keller's ARCS model. So the ARCS in terms of attention, or, arousal, relevance, confidence, and satisfaction. So again, when we think of those words, they're human words, they're emotional words. So I just, again, people either say attention or arousal. So let's say the ARCS, the arousal, relevance, confidence, and satisfaction. So to do that, we need to resonate with the learners. We need to connect with them, and serving up factual information that's pulled out from an AI that's grabbed it from data is not the way to do that. I think the more we contextualize it, the more intrinsically motivated the people are going to be to want to learn. Everyone wants to do the right thing, typically in organizations. And that's where we want to have case studies, for example, where it's not factual. Are there 3 processes, yes or no? Are there policies, or what would you do in this situation? We want them to get that gray in the conversation where it's like, well, I need to apply some human emotional intelligence here to make decisions for the greater good of the intent of what we're wanting to achieve here in accordance with compliance and all that type of thing. So, just factual recalling and true false multiple choice questions is not the way where we drill into that gray area of what we should be doing in terms of how do we improve ourselves and our teams and the business.
Maybe I'll jump in, Rod. I think that this is where I'm really interested in how far you can actually push some of the current AI models by using really strong prompting and drawing on some of those to actually say, well, based on some of these principles, the ARCS model, give me case studies, use the principles of emotional intelligence. I think we'd be really surprised in actually how far we could get that first draft, or at least push it to see how far we can get it. I played with some of that, and once again, if you've got the strong prompting there and you know what you want it to give you, it can be really impressive in the actual output that you get from some of these things. I think this is really simple prompting. If we just input in of SME content and say, write me a storyboard based on this, or write me assessment questions on this, input in, input out. If you give it a simple input, it will give you a simple output. But with quite a complex and building on that prompting and shaping what the outcome you want it to be, I think people would be really surprised at how far you could get that.
But if I was just thinking of Rahul's analogy again of the assist, the basketball assist. So what you're saying, Greg, if you throw it right on the corner of the board, the assist is not going to be terribly effective. But if you work together in a line, i.e. prompt, then you're more likely to get better results.
I think with prompting, the biggest thing that I always talk to people, I think we're very conditioned to use AI like we use it like Google. Simple, one question in, one question, we take the output and go, okay, well, that's all the machines can give us. The beauty of these models is that you can keep building on that prompt, adding, shaping it, reshaping it. If it goes too far in one direction, pull it back, push it in another direction. It's really impressive once you, I think, start to reshape how you prompt and how you actually build the outcome you're looking for. I think that's the big change that I see people making the most out of these models is learning that prompting skill.
I think
and not losing the ability to do fact checking. So So you've got to be careful of both the bias in the system and the data that you're drawing, like you're asking it to draw from data. So if there's already bias, whether it's racism, sexism, whatever, bias already in that system, then the machine will have that bias as well, because it's only as good as the data that it's drawing from. And you just have to be mindful of that and being able to check that. So yeah, there's I'm sure you've probably heard some of the case studies where it's referencing sources that don't exist. It's kind of pieced together this narrative of different information from different places, and it sounds really convincing. And yeah, you need to still fact check to make sure that what it's telling you is accurately correct, particularly in health.
There's a term now being used around AI lost the word, sorry. Like it's a hallucination that AI is having, is because it does just make up context if it doesn't have context. But I'll stop at one little point here. I kind of talk about it like an intern, right? That I can, almost micromanage and say, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this. Now, if I had a new intern that I was doing that, I would check as well. I would check their work. We're all humans. We all have our own bias as well. And the AI's bias, guess where it's been trained on? Human bias. So if I had an intern that I was asking to give me that output, I would be checking that, making sure that it's quality, the bias is not there, all of those things as well. So yeah, I think it's all really good. We have to make sure that it's not biased, that it is ethical, that the data source is correct, all of those things. Agree.
Anything else before we move on?
Yeah, I think the also for L&D to step back and evaluate what's the objective. Is the objective to drive performance, or is it to unlock human potential? I think the performance versus potential aspect is key here, because I think when you combine emotional intelligence and AI, you're really getting to potential and not just performance. I think that's one distinction. It can be a very powerful combination, as Greg described. If you get the prompts right and you get it to a point, then you can take kind of good to great as well.
I think to and that, Rahul, it's important. So what's the role of EI in this age? And that's bringing the human to the table and remembering that our people are going through transformation and might be having emotional reactions to that. And not just our L&D professionals, but also the workers, the people that we're servicing, that they're going through all of this change, and they're going to have different reactions to that. So you will have some that will embrace it, you're going to have some that are going to struggle with it, and our role is to understand that and manage our own reactivity in this situation, but also to respect that we need to support that for the people that we're helping to upskill.
All right. It was a good discussion. We'll hit some more of this, I'm sure, as we go. Let's do a quick poll question related to the topic we just had, and that is, just want to get your sense of how does your organization prioritize the implementation of emotionally intelligent learning design? So is it a high priority right now, a moderate priority, low priority, or really not on your radar? Meanwhile, while you're voting, we've got some good comments here and some links that people are supplying for additional information that I think can be really helpful. Keep weighing in with those questions. There was one, or those comments. There was one about ethics, and I think when we get into some of the consequences of maybe not using emotionally intelligent design, we'll get into some of the ethics. So Shay, how are we doing on voting here?
Pretty good. We're about 70%.
Yep, let's go ahead and
All right.
see what people say. So about 2/3, about 68% see it as a high priority or moderate priority, which is great. I think that this is still fairly new, and for organizations to really be focusing on this is great. And again, only 12% are saying it's really not on the radar, and hopefully we'll help you in this discussion, maybe start your journey. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. I think this is, we're getting into the real meat of things here. We want to talk a little bit about the unintended consequences that could result from leveraging AI in learning without using the principles of emotional intelligence. So Greg, I know you have some strong opinions here.
Yeah, thanks. So I think sort of touched on one of these before, but the main 2 points here, and one of the things I've been thinking about is take AI out of this, and really that good learning design and good principles here are the most important thing. Now, adding AI on top of that is just adding, fuel to the fire. And that can either be in a quite a negative way, where if we've got bad principles, bad learning design, that we're not thinking about emotional intelligence in our learning design currently, we're only going to make that problem worse. We're going to only multiply the multitudes of content we currently see being produced that doesn't really add impact. So I think that's, maybe a big first one there is just, this is our opportunity, as I said before, inflection point to make a real change here, but we need to make sure the underlying principles of how we view learning and what we're doing do focus on that human side of things. And AI, once again, is only the assist on top of that. And then the second one that I already say, I've seen people have issues with this already, is outsourcing of thinking to AI. Once again, the importance of you being in the driver's seat, being the pilot of the, what is now being termed everywhere as a co-pilot, is if you just, blindly ask one of these LLM, AI engines to produce something for you, but you either don't check it, don't know what you're looking for, you will just produce content for content's sake that won't really deliver the impact you're looking for. I've got a real life example of this. In the past, someone had produced a sort of framework document. As soon as I asked them questions on the contents of that, very quickly became evident that they just used one of those engines to produce it, but hadn't actually put the thinking in themselves, and that came evident straight away. So I think just that importance of making sure unintended consequence here is if you don't have good thinking applied to how you use AI, you will just produce more poor content, poor outcomes.
What you just were saying, I suppose, just without sidetracking a little bit, is very similar to the higher education space in terms of them need to reevaluating their assessment methods. It's not about what you submit anymore. That's just the let's go with the assist that you described, for example. That's the starting point for the conversation, or starting point for the learning.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you guess here to this thing? Like Rod, I probably asked you this very early on when we met, but whenever external learning vendors show me what learning they built, I always ask them, why did you build this? What was the reason this thing got built? I'm more interested in that than the content, and that's the same now with the outputs that AI produce. What is the outcome we're looking for? And like I said, take away AI, that's an important question now. We should be thinking about what's the outcome, who are the people at the center of this, and AI is only going to further enhance that if we use it right.
Yeah,
one of the other things sorry, you go.
Thank you. So I think, again, going back to the sports analogies, I think the idea of being fit to play, what AI, as we saw when Brandon presented the survey, was it's a lot about building scale. So if you got something that's poor, then you're basically building scale on something that's poor. So for example, if you're a bad driver and you're suddenly given a sports car that does 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, suddenly you're driving at a very high speed, being a poor driver. So I think like any technology and any innovation, you almost have to spend time in making sure that your current state is at least at a certain level before you start to scale. And I think AI provides the scale, and that's why, going back to Greg's point, the core principles are learning design. So if you have good learning design and effective learning design, AI will allow you to scale things. But if you don't have the principles in order, the foundation is weak, then it could go the reverse way, because suddenly you're magnifying a weak foundation.
I also wanted to think, absolutely as a accelerating learning design, but it's also thinking about it at a learner experience level as well, and starting to think about if you're starting to use AI to automate some of your LMS functions or your assessment functions or reporting functions and those types of things as well. So you have to be really clear on the algorithms that you're using, what they're measuring, what those rules are, and ensuring that you bring the human into that. And also making sure that our people, like a certain level of transparency is required into what's automated and how it works in order to be able to manage that and understand it and mitigate for risk.
Any other thoughts here?
Maybe just, I agree with you, Rochelle. Maybe just to go back one point, for my team, been trying to put so much emphasis on to the human point, upstream, the relationship building part, and really making sure that we get the right information, the right context, all of that. The importance of that is only going to grow and grow. I think, Rod, you sort of mentioned this well, that the strength of that sort of learning, partnering, performance consulting skill set in building what will, some of that will feed into AI engines to improve the output. That human role up front to make sure we're asking the right questions, getting all the right context, and whether that's then applied to AI or not, I think is the most important role in L&D for us going forward. I talked to the team, the other presenters on this the other day, but look, we don't know in 12 months' time what our roles will look like, what our use of AI will be. But we can for sure know that part will continue to be important. We know the things that will likely be able to be supported and assisted by AI. But yeah, for me and the guidance to my team is really doubling down on that human part, and particularly upfront, upstream as far as we can, I think is the best place we can make the most impact.
I don't know what's your, like I'd referred to it before as hybrid. I know like in a defense context, when you have like simulated flight simulations and you got people actually in the sky and people in simulators, they were calling it synthetic. But yeah, so interesting of how this piloting and co-piloting and partnering works and how we do it. It reminds me of, I was reading something the other day that someone wrote about the relationship or the partnering or hybrid, whatever you want to call it, between robotics and surgery in a surgery context, or with surgeons. And just how they, leverage that, where they, it is a partner and it is a pilot and it is that. Like, I don't know whether the word's synthetic, and I don't know whether it's hybrid. I don't know. Maybe I'll come to, someone comes to me later tonight. But yeah, it is how we work together.
Definitely.
All right, let's move on. I think we're getting some comments about ethics. Maybe we can touch on as we go forward. And just keep those comments coming, and we'll get some of them toward the end. But our next topic is going to be what L&D can do to take the lead. And before we do a quick poll, I just wanted to share some research that we did, and this was late last year. We asked about the involvement of L&D and HR in really shaping an organization's AI strategy. So beyond just learning, working with other parts of the organization to really play a lead role in shaping the future. And we found that only 36% of L&D and other HR functions were actively involved in shaping the AI strategy. A lot of it was left to IT, which makes sense to some degree, but everybody should have a role because this involves the entire organization. So only 36% are actively involved, whereas 45% are only somewhat involved or even not involved at all in kind of driving the organization's thinking on this. And so with that in the background, wanted to ask you a final poll question, and then we're going to drill into how L&D can take the lead in some of these things. And this question, real quick, is to what extent is your learning or HR organization actively contributing to the development of the AI strategy within your organization? So we want to see where you are. Saw the previous research. So, have you started building it, or if you haven't started building a strategy, are you actively involved, somewhat involved, or not involved at all in terms of your function that you work in at your organization? So it'll be interesting to see where you are all at with this, and then we'll get everybody else's on the panel viewpoint on the role of L&D here. So Shay, why don't you let us know where people are, what they think.
Okay, I'll go ahead and share.
Okay, I'm interested in this. Okay, so 38% are somewhat involved, but 23% haven't started at all, 15% actively involved. So really, even a little bit less than what our survey showed. But that's okay. We're still early on, and I think the key is to feel good about your knowledge of AI and where the organization is going, and then to begin to really play a role. So let's talk about this a little bit. And Roshelle, you can lead us on this about how can learning organizations take the lead, and what should they be doing in blending AI and emotional intelligence to improve the learner experience?
Yeah, and I was thinking about this to go, reflecting to Greg's point, that it is constantly evolving. It is absolutely, and moving faster sometimes than we can keep up, particularly in large organizations. So having that resilience and being able to, I hate the word pivot, but, pivot to change direction as you need to, as technology improves and becomes more feasible in your organization, so thinking through that and to go, well, actually, there are several different capabilities that will become really important as you get into and start embracing this type of technology in your organization. Well, one is digital literacy. As you said, Greg, some people have been comfortable to go, well, that's not my thing. I don't do that. I don't use these tools. And it's like, well, if you don't, you're at risk of being left behind because, everyone else will be, absolutely. But you also need to think, we're going to start to need roles that have expertise in analytics to the next level that we've never sort of needed as much in an L&D context. That's only going to get deeper and stronger as we need more people that think that way and are able to write and train algorithms and be able to do things to automate some of our processes in this space. So thinking about that and how you crunch and use that, build reports, do predictive analytics, all that fun stuff. That's a whole new exciting domain, a career path that we'll potentially see in the L&D space. But it's also, I think, seeing our people's role changing from a creator to a curator. So where they're, as you're getting the beginnings of information sent to you, and here's all these things, thought starters, then as the thought worker, you are massaging that in order to bring the context to that content. Then, of course, you've got UX design and all sorts of things. But I think where the emotional intelligence really comes into play is that becomes our differentiator. It's our ability to have and demonstrate emotional intelligence and interpersonal skills, relationship building. That's the thing that will help you to succeed and stay resilient in this space, as well as being able to understand the ethics around how it should all work and being able to monitor and supervise what your digital intern is doing. That means you need to understand what it means to be fair and transparent and mitigate for bias and all of those things. So I think you'll expect to see more and more roles that specifically are focused on architecting learning experiences, data science teams, content curation and validators. To your point, that fact checking might become a necessary role in order to check the accuracy of the content that we're developing and all of that type of thing, which is all underpinned by a general literacy for artificial intelligence. So bringing the human to the machines together is I think where I think if you want to take the lead in this space, being aware of these emerging capability requirements and starting to build them into your recruitment strategy and your technology roadmap and your personal and professional development plans for your people, start to think about the long term. Like, it's not going to happen overnight, and it is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Technology is moving fast, but managing people through change at a pace that they can sustain, that will be a slow burn. And so you'll be able to do that and use natural attrition and those type of things to bring in different ways of thinking. But these are all things you need to start thinking about as acknowledge that L&D is on its own transformation roadmap, as will your organization. So no doubt they have a transformation plan, but so will you in terms of supporting yourself and your peers through what's going to be an interesting next 12 months.
I'll add to that, Rochelle. I think, if I think about what it is we do, my team does, our profession does, it's, we should be the advocates for our learners, the people at the center of this. And I think that we can really then become the champions of AI in organizations, because I think a lot of companies are very early trying to grapple with what this means. They're looking at it from depending on the company you work for, commercialization and product point of view. But I think that we can put ourselves in a really unique position to be that interface and be the ones that are the experts in the people, which we already have, build our skills in being the experts then in AI and how those two things join. What I see really early is the people that are interested in this, you stand out very quickly. And you can start to have conversations with people in your IT and digital teams about AI, and people are blown away. And, when I've talked to our IT team, they're like, wow, you know a lot about technology. Like, this is really great. Like, you'll see new relationships form, and you can put yourself in the spotlight. There's always the thing in L&D where we say, we want a seat at the table, right? And I'll say one of my mentors said to me, you need to create the table. And I think in this case of AI, that we can create the table at that intersection of the people and AI, and how we can help our people perform better at their jobs. So I think that it has to be, on that side, get in front of the wave, start getting good literacy, to use your words, Rochelle, in AI, the basics of it, and keep learning, keep iterating on that. I've learned some stuff around robotic process automation, RPA tools, because I think that there's some things there that will probably become useful in the future. And as I touched on before, I think we're very good at knowing what will be redundant because of technology. I don't think we're good at knowing what we will need in the future. But adaptability of skills, the ability to relearn, unlearn will remain the key skill that we can all have.
And I get that for some, this will feel overwhelming. It's like, where do I even start? What do I do? And so, there's been some great links and some things that you can lean into, but you're not alone. And there are a heap of organizations, us included, that are passionate about this, and you can lean on, experts and communities to share that information. You don't have to start from a blank page.
And collaborating with other people, like discussions like we're having now, or even amongst your own cohort or within your team, that's where you learn things as well. Like Greg and I, we chat every now and then, and I'll give you credit. You're the first person, I hear it all the time now, but you're the first person that actually said AI won't replace your job. Someone using AI will. So anyway, that was many long time ago. You're the first one that said it, but you hear it all the time. You have these conversations and you learn something new. You find out what works, doesn't work. It's a really exciting time. There's some things we need to be careful of or considered of when we're talking about like the integrity of the data, and maybe I think there was a comment or two popped in around like ethics we haven't touched on, but I don't know, we've got a little bit of time. But conversations about it and just learning ourselves from each other and using the tools.
We have a comment / question from somebody that maybe we can tackle now, and one of our audience members said, for effective learning, we've been speaking of personalizing the learning experience for a while and adapting to the learner in terms of the content, level of difficulty, etc. And so he wants to know if you all think that AI will help in these subtle delivery methods and challenges that L&D has.
I'll go first. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Rochelle.
Short answer is I absolutely think AI can help. It's AI's ability to process large and diverse different data points that would inform that is greater than we would be able to do. So as a facilitator standing in front of a room, my ability to be able to read and contextualize content for that room is limited, extremely limited. But when you are in a digital environment and you're looking at what have they learnt before, what's their experience, what's their HR data, how did they answer the last question, all of that information, and then be able to adjust what you present next. You might need to reinforce a point that you can tell that they've missed. All sorts of, there's so many different ways that AI can be used in order to ensure the best learning outcome for that person. Being able to tell, where are they? How do I contextualize for, are they working from home? Are they in the office? What region are they in? What type of work does that role do? There's so many things that that it can do if empowered to do so.
Sort of pushes the need. I remember several years ago doing a presentation around like XAPI, learning record store, big data, learning analytics. And now it's almost like resonating more of like, you've got to have that data to get those data points so you can start using automation tools and techniques. So I know we're talking about AI, but I mean, yeah, data and data learning analytics is something that we need to have access to.
Yeah,
Any
absolutely.
other-
I think personalized AI definitely takes personalized learning to a whole new level. I think in 3 ways. One, the learning journey can be more adapted based on algorithms. So based on, as Rochelle described. Secondly, the assist can be more proactive. I'm thinking chatbots and virtual assistants, so you're getting real-time assistance. And third, which we didn't really touch upon, is AI can also be predictive based on past behavior. So for, based on, how learners specifically performing, especially if a learner requires remediation or intervention, AI can actually predict that and help L&D step in and intervene. So I think from my perspective, we're talking about, at the beginning of the webinar, we're talking about, how AI can build scale. I think it can definitely build a super scale for personalized learning.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I completely agree with what everyone said. I think breaking down what we see as learning today, the evolution of that in the future, take away the e-learning modules, all of those things. I had a new starter recently start with me, and I've got access to the Microsoft Copilot, their AI engine. There was an acronym that came up and a few other questions that a new starter typically has. And, we've joked that, she sent it to me as Greg AI because I've got access to this thing. I'd asked it the question, it spat out the answer straight away. So if I think about the evolution of those, where these chatbot interfaces that we'll likely all have in the future, probably be voice activated. You could ask it any question at any point about anything you want to know, and it will know who you are in your organization. It will have your work history. It will have probably your learning history, whatever in the background that you can ask a question. So I think that for me, when I think about breaking down kind of what we view as learning today versus what those tools will become in the future, I absolutely think some of these things where, you ask it a question, it might ask you questions to say, well, what's your current understanding? And it takes you along whatever that customized pathway that will be completely unique to you as a person. I see that is where we'll end up in however many years. I'll stop there.
Okay, great. So we've got just a few minutes left. I thought maybe we could hit some key takeaways and get some reaction from the audience and from our panel. And so these are 5 things that, as we were talking, that I was kind of left with, and I'm sure there are others, but one was, overall, AI is a good thing, right? We shouldn't be afraid of it. It can be a powerful tool for accelerating the effectiveness L&D, but there's a lot of considerations, a lot of things we need to do to make it work. Using AI is a great way to support you and your learning operation, but don't outsource your thinking. The creativity, your imagination, your thought process is more valuable than ever in this era of AI. The other thing that I think was kind of an undertone, I don't know if anybody said this directly, but what I kind of heard within the context is the biggest blocker for most L&D teams will be resistance to change. And we've got to be able to roll and adapt, maybe month to month, year to year. This is going to change and evolve for a long time. Number 4 is that L&D really needs to think differently about the future career paths for learning, and also the skill sets that they need to adapt and change now and in the foreseeable future. And then kind of the obvious one, right, is that all of this is just going to continue to evolve, and the only predictable constant will be change. So thoughts, reactions, questions, comments from the audience? Panelists, you want anything to add? Or
I was just saying, I love that last one. That is the I love that phrase.
I think it's just to be mindful, we're thinking about emotional intelligence and AI, that our role is to help bring the human to the machine, and to make sure that we don't all just become numbers and it's, you know, repetitive, robotic, formulaic, that we are still humans underneath, and respecting that. And that's the value that we add as L&D professionals, is making sure that we're bringing the human to the processes, whether we're automated or not, as well as the learning experiences that we create.
Greg, you were talking about, like, you know, create the table and getting a seat at the table, and I mentioned like big data learning and analytics. We're going to anchor back in terms of what problem we're trying to solve and make sure that we're serving up, you know, data insights that are measurable for, you know, back to the business needs and the business impact. Because if we start serving up this random data and pulling stuff and showing off with, you know, and it's not actually putting impact back into the business and the impact that we're having with learning interventions, then, you know, why would we get a seat at the table?
Yeah, and this is another point I've been talking to my team about as well, Rod, is that, you know, that evaluation piece, I think it often, you know, we talk about it at the back end of the process. At the start, we have to be really clear on why we're doing what we're doing. We can have all of the AI smarts on the back end to analyze the data, to give us data visualizations, all of that stuff. But if we don't know what the data we're presenting is and why we're doing it, how it links back to actually creating impact in our businesses, I think that's the missed opportunity for us. So I think just to tie up some of those points there, I think that this is a really exciting opportunity. I think, you know, L&D's been, you know, we've struggled to get out of the box that we've been sitting in for a long time. There's probably some stagnant bits of how people view us. Now's your opportunity to, you know, really be successful as the pilot. You know, a quote I heard back, you know, over 12 months ago now is, the people that are most successful in the next 5 to 10 years will be the people that become really good pilots of AI. And I think that's our opportunity, and that's, I've, you know, been very aggressively trying to be that. Since I heard that, I went, okay, this is what I really need to focus on now, because I think it's how we will win as, you know, for me, leading a team, in a business, in my personal role, and my career personally, I think it's the most important thing you can be doing.
And just to take that analogy forward, Greg, I think it's also about being a responsible pilot. You know, pilots go through this, you know, rigorous amount of training, retraining, and one way to do that, and we discussed that before, was we have a great community here, you know, and to reach out and collaborate. And if before scaling something really significant, maybe just test the waters with a few people within L&D and this wonderful community we have.
Agreed.
We've got a couple of minutes left. I just wanted to share a comment from Michael, and I kind of like this is maybe to begin to wrap up, is that AI can potentially maximize, customize, personalize the learning and return on instruction. AI can help to deliver at the moment of need really targeted training. I think that's a good comment. Any final comments from the panel or the audience before we wrap up?
Nothing from me.
No.
But yeah, I think as everyone's mentioned, so you know, on LinkedIn, I'm sure everyone else is the same, but I absolutely welcome people to reach out, continue conversation with us, and answer questions going forward.
Agreed.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Any of us, we're all available. Look us up on LinkedIn. You know, create a cohort conversation. Always up for dialogue and, you know, lifelong learning from each other.
And during the course of our event here, we've had people put in links and suggestions. Here is one more. I think we brought it up before in the chat, is a research brief that EI and Brendan Hall Group collaborated on. It's the importance of emotional intelligence in the age of AI, and we'll put we put the link already, I think, in the chat. We'll do it one more time. And then I just want to take the final couple of minutes to thank everyone. Thank you for, first of all, for the people who took time out of their day to join us and be really active participants in the conversation. It really helps all of you as you're listening, and helps us as we see the comments coming in. So thank you not only for joining us, but your active participation. And then last but certainly not least, to thank our sponsors, EI and Liberate Learning. They're great partners, doing a lot to really advance the space and advance this thinking on the impact of emotional intelligence in the age of AI. So thank you. Thank all of you for all your insights. And with that, we'll say goodbye and hopefully see you on another event by Brandon Hall Group very soon. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.